Assalamu alaikum student. This is Sana Zeeb again with you with chemical equilibrium. Today's topic is thermal reaction. So the student should be able to differentiate between exothermic and endothermic reactions with their examples in the end of the class or in the end of the session. So student, let's consider a reaction, exothermic reaction. So student, whenever we talking about a reaction, either it is reversible or irreversible, we observe some energy changes. Sometime the reaction absorb energy and sometime reaction releases energy. So according to the energy changes, there are two kind of reaction. One is exothermic reaction and another is endothermic reaction. So student, here first we discuss about exothermic reaction. So the formal definition of exothermic reaction is, an exothermic reaction is a chemical reaction in which heat energy releases or escape out from the system. Here are some example of exothermic reaction in which we see here the hydrolysis of calcium chloride is an example of a exothermic reaction because here heat energy is released out. We know that exo means to out, outside or to release out. So whenever from a reaction heat energy is released out, this is a kind of example of a exothermic reaction. So this heat, whenever it is writing at the side of the head of the arrow, it shows this is product and release out at that time. So this is another example of combustion reaction. All kind of combustion reaction in which methane gas or natural gas is burn out to produce carbon dioxide and water with heat energy, and we know that this heat energy is used by our different purpose, used as a fuel normally in daily life. So here heat energy release out, so we can say this is also an example of exothermic reaction. Here student, you see some more examples of exothermic reaction in which oxidation of magnesium is taking place, in which magnesium oxide is produced as a product with heat energy. So heat energy is released out. So this is an example of exothermic reaction. Student, let's consider this example, all kind of neutralization reaction in which it is a very common neutralization reaction in which sodium hydroxide and HCl react together to form sodium chloride and water with heat energy. So all kind of neutralization reaction is an example of exothermic reaction because here also heat energy is released out. Now discuss endothermic reaction. There are another kind of reactions in which heat energy is absorbed during the reaction. All these kind of reaction is called endothermic reaction. Student, as you know, endo means to in, inside, and therm means heat. Whenever heat energy is absorbed in to the system by the system is called endothermic reactions. So here are some example of endothermic reaction. When calcium carbonate absorbs heat, it decomposes and converts into product calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Always remember student that all kind of decomposition reaction is an example of endothermic reaction. This is also decomposition reaction in which C8H18 or this is gasoline or octane. It decomposes into C6H14 hexane and C2H4 ethene. This is third example is photosynthesis reaction. It is also an example of endothermic reaction, and we know that in photosynthesis reaction sunlight energy is needed to the reaction. So whenever water, carbon dioxide is react together in the presence of sunlight, it produces glucose, and we can say plant food and oxygen gas. So this is also an example of endothermic reaction. How we can identify the given reaction is exothermic or endothermic, student? Whenever any reaction is writing in front of you on the page or the board, how we can identify the reaction is exo or endo nature. If heat is not specifically writing in the equation. अगर हम देखते हैं कि कोई heat का word नहीं लिखा हुआ at the side of the tail or at the side of the head, तो फिर ये endo है कि exo है, तो हम पहचानते हैं by enthalpy change sign, that is delta H. Okay, what is enthalpy change? Student, enthalpy change is the name given to the amount of heat either given or evolved out. सही है, the specific amount of heat which is evolved or which is absorbed by the reaction carried out at constant pressure, we can say that is delta H and read like delta H. Okay, here are some examples of reaction in which we can see the value of delta H and with specific signs. So here this is consider first example in which delta H is negative. Delta H negative shows the reaction release heat energy. So whenever we see delta H value with value is doesn't matter, only the sign shows the reaction is exo or endothermic in nature. So whenever delta H is negative, our reaction is exothermic in nature. Whenever delta H is positive, the reaction the given reaction is an example of endothermic reaction because positive means to absorb. So whenever a reaction absorb heat, this is belongs to endothermic nature of the reaction. Student, here we discuss difference in between exothermic and endothermic reaction. So whenever we talking about the meaning of the endothermic reaction and exothermic reaction, so here actually endothermic are those kind of reaction, chemical reaction in which they are involving the use of energy. Yes, we know that they absorb heat at dissociation to form a new chemical bond. सही है. So whenever a new chemical bond is formed during a reaction, we can say that the reaction is an example of endothermic nature. And whenever chemical reaction where the energy is released or evolved in the form of heat is known as the exothermic reaction. Okay, when we talking about the energy, we know that all kind of reaction in which heat energy absorbed, they are belongs to endothermic natures of reaction. And whenever heat energy evolve or escape out from the system, this kind of reaction is an example of exothermic reaction, as we discussed previously slide. When we talking about enthalpy, we know that delta H, whenever we see positive in nature, that reaction is an example of endothermic reaction because all those reaction heat energy is absorbed by the reaction. And when delta H is negative, it means that heat energy is released out from the system. So we can say the reaction is an example of exothermic reaction. These are the some common examples from daily life which shows endothermic reactions and nature, and these are the some common examples which shows the reactions are exothermic reaction. For example, formation of ice from water, burning of coal, burning of cellulose, combustion we can say, and the reaction between water and the strong acid. All kind of reactions are an example of exothermic reactions. So what are the interesting facts? Yes, what are the interesting facts about exo and endo? Yes, student, those vessels in which reaction is taking place, if they are heated or they are hot during the reaction, we can say that kind of reaction is exothermic because these reaction releases energy from the system to the surrounding. So first surrounding of the system is the wall of the container, or we can say the wall of the vessel. So wall of the vessel or container will become hot during exothermic reaction, and wall of the container or wall of the vessel becomes cold during endothermic reaction because it needs energy. Whenever it absorb energy from the surrounding, so first of all it absorb from the wall, so wall become cold in endothermic nature of reaction. Let's discuss about the energetic profile diagram of these both reaction, endothermic and endothermic, exothermic and endothermic. So first discuss exothermic reaction. Here student, we can see the reactant of exothermic reaction having high energy or high enthalpy, whereas product having low enthalpy or low energy. Here the extra amount of heat release out from the system to the surrounding, and this is the energy gap which is actually released out from the system to the surrounding. Okay, in the case of exothermic reaction student, we know that the reaction are at higher energy, reactants are at higher energy as I discussed in previous slide, level as compared to the products as shown below in the energy diagram. Yes, above diagram we have discussed this point. In other words, we can say the products are more stable than the reactants. So overall delta H value is negative in exothermic reaction. Okay, let's consider the energy diagram of endothermic reaction, in which we can see the energy or the enthalpy of product is higher than reactant. So whenever any reactant are react together, it needs some energy. This is the gap of energy which is absorbed by the reaction. So this amount of energy absorbed a particular reaction, this is called endothermic reaction, because all kind of endothermic reaction product having high energy level, so it needs absorb energy to produce product. So in this case endothermic reaction, in the case of endothermic reaction, the reactants are at lower energy level compared to the products as shown in diagram above. In other words, the products are less stable than the reactant since we are forcing the reaction in the forward direction towards more unstable entities. Overall delta H for the reaction, we know that positive in nature. So here we compare both reaction. In the same time, here we can see in exothermic reaction the energy of reactant is greater than product, whereas in endothermic reaction energy of reactant is less than product. Here energy is escape out or release out, and here energy is absorbed by the reaction. So this is the very good diagram by which we can compare both reaction exothermic and endothermic. So student, there is a question about you. Identify which column for exothermic reaction and which is for endothermic reaction. So student, here there are two columns. This is the parameter which observe here, yellow column and red column. Okay, let's consider this column in which heat energy release. In this column the reaction shows energy of reactant greater than product and the value of delta H is negative, whereas in red column energy absorbed by the reaction, we can say energy of the reactant is less than product and the delta H is positive in nature. So what is your answer? What is yellow column shows and red column shows? So here yellow column show exothermic reaction because here energy released, here energy of reactant is greater than product and delta H is negative. So it is exothermic in nature, and red column shows the endothermic nature of the reaction. So this is all about today's class student. I hope you learn well, or this lecture or this topic is, आज की क्लास आपके लिए बहुत फायदेमंद होगी, फ्रूटफुल होगी. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग माय वीडियो. प्लीज़ लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब एंड डोंट और बिल्कुल भी नहीं भूलिएगा आप इसको बेल आइकन को प्रेस करना, ताकि नेक्स्ट आने वाली वीडियो आपके पास सबसे पहले पहुंच सके. थैंक यू सो मच. गुड बाय.